Say for section 1.4, measure and classify angles. The first section asks you to write 3 names for the angle shown, then name the vertex and the sides of the angle. I already have numbers 2 and 3 completed. This isn't a very challenging exercise, but it is important. When you have one angle, it's best if you just trace it with your finger or your pencil. Use 3 letters, angle D, E, F would be one acceptable name. Now if you leave it like that and you don't put anything in front of it, this is referring to a plane. Remember, we're talking about an angle, so make sure you put the angle mark. Now if you reverse the letters, that's acceptable as well. You could call this angle FED. And since there's only one angle, you could actually name the angle by its vertex. So angle E is acceptable in this diagram as well. That's because the vertex is that point E. And the 2 sides of the angle would be the 2 rays that make it, ray EF and ray ED. So just make sure you're naming them like that. You can't reverse the order of the letters in rays. Okay, you can pause the video if you need to check out numbers 2 and 3. For numbers 4 through 7, they want you to classify the angle with a given measure as acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So we're just looking at a measure and then giving it that classification. So if we start with number 6, the measure of angle A equals 90. That's a right angle. Right angles have 90 degrees. Now if they have less, like this one at number 5, you would classify it as acute. If it has more than 90, you would classify it as obtuse. Straight angles have 180 degrees. This one isn't quite there, it's close, but it's still obtuse because it's bigger than 90. It's not 180. Okay, the next section asks you to use a protractor to find the measure of the given angle. Classify the angle as acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So in this diagram, they want you to use what's called the protractor postulate. It's called the protractor postulate because you could use a protractor to find the measures of the angles. So if these rays would extend, what would happen is this ray right here, call it ray FB, that would extend through a certain point on your protractor. It just so happens to go through this point that has the 50 and the 130 on it. That's why those numbers are there. Okay, so this ray FC goes through 2 points, 7 goes through 1 point. Each point has 2 numbers because you could read the scale going this way, or this way. Okay, so 76 and 104 live here. 150 and 30 live there. 180 and 0 live there. The 2 numbers, I don't know if you noticed this, but they're always going to add up to 180. Okay, we want to find the measure of angle DFE. So make sure you know where it is first. Here's DFE. That's this little skinny angle. I think you can tell that it's acute, so that's its classification. Now you need to calculate its measure. So how many degrees of spread are there between these 2 rays? Well, remember, if you find a 0, it's easier to use it. 0 is the bottom number. So 30 minus 0 gives you the measure of that angle. That means there's 30 degrees in between these 2 rays. If you didn't use the bottom numbers, you could have used the top numbers. 180 minus 150 still gives you 30 degrees. Angle measures in this course will always be positive. Number 9, find the measure of angle AFB. Again, it's going to be acute. Notice how we have a 0 as the top number now. Angle AFB would have a measure of 50. 50 minus 0. Number 10, find the measure of angle CFE. This angle's a little bit bigger. If you're not sure, maybe just wait to find its measure, then you can classify it. But we have a 0 down here at the bottom numbers, so use this bottom number here. That'll tell you that angle's 104 degrees. That means there's 104 little degrees in between this ray and this ray. It's obtuse. It's bigger than 90. Number 11, find the measure of angle AFE. This angle AFE is a straight angle. If you look at the top numbers, 0 and 180.